Hey, good morning, everybody. Tuesday, May 6th, a little bit ahead of the market open at the time of recording. How are you? Let's get into it. Let's take a look at some GameStop, take a look at a little bit of option flow. We last spoke last Thursday, actually. Was going over, we talked about some GameStop flow as well. We took a look at that, what they were traders were looking at into May and June and some of those bets. We were taking a look at those $27 puts that we had seen the last couple of weeks pop up for this week's expiring. A few different things. We had also revisited that Uber trade idea back from February 7th. It put out a pretty good thesis back for Uber back then. February 7th, stock was trading around $70. We got some movement on those Uber 7750. They were in the money, or out of the money at the time. Have been in the money. Uber, I believe, even has pushed higher since last Thursday, because I swear I saw a notification that those were up even more yesterday. Yeah, 85. Uber was $85 yesterday, closed around 85. So from the time of that plan, those I believe are up now. Let me look on my phone, my account. 105% cost when purchased 850. So yeah, 100 up 105%. Not too bad because they're up about 180%. There were a couple of opportunities. And that trade idea came up ahead of that Bill Ackman news back in February. So it was kind of cool to see. I know a lot of people are like, hey, GameStop, what's going on? Well, we'll take a look at that. We'll look at the flow. We'll look at how things broke down. I know when we talked last Thursday in the video, I said watch your levels. Watch, let's see, when was last Thursday? May 1st. Stock had hit a high there of 28.35, but I had recorded that video ahead of the market open. So we only knew what it was on April 30th, which the high was 27.93. And I had said, keep in mind, see that 9-day EMA highlighted there on the top left of your screen, 27.17. Just, keep an eye on those moving averages. We'd also talked about that 21 day at 26.24. Talked about that last Thursday. Then down here is your 200 SMA and then your 50 SMA. I like to use those on a daily time frame and just kind of squeeze them out. So you've got a little bit more time to look at in that regard. So when we look at that, let's see what happened Friday there. A little bit of higher high, and then you saw 28.35. And then Monday, high of 27.92. And then yesterday, that low of 26.35. And if you look there, your 9-day, or pardon me, your 21-day EMA or exponential moving average is 26.47. So it was right there, kind of on a 21 EMA. And I always say look for some of those to catch support. Look at where price has been before. It's kind of been in this trading area, which is in that gap up from the last earnings, but it's where the stock has been. Stock has been there since November in this same kind of range. You've seen these prices before, and you've heard me talk about it before. And we've seen these, if we go zoom all the way back to this time around last year, you've seen these prices before. So, would everybody like 30 and 35? Sure. Would people like 40? Sure. Would people like to see 20 again so they could load the dip? I'm sure they would. A lot of different things there. So when you look at it, I mean, let me zoom this in a little bit. So that way you got some fresh data for your moving averages here. So if you look, like I said, right there on your 21. Now you've got your 200 day at 24.96 and then the 50 at 24.87. Those are highlighted on your top left corner of your screen. Use those. Use these prior price points as reference. If the stock were to decline, kind of see that MACD starting to cross. Granted, that's a lagging indicator. It could go the other. It could, essentially turn and come back. You never know. You just got to watch it day by day. A little bit of volume, a little bit larger yesterday, but that MACD curl. I know we talked Thursday with what kind of looked on the weekly with that MACD kind of making the move back up. And here's your weekly right now, still gliding right above your longer time frame 200 SMA and then your 50 SMA. So I mean, here's your numbers here: 25, 26, 26.15. I mean, the low this week 26.35. So I mean, the charts and trends and moving averages work until they don't. That's why I just try to rely on moving averages. Take a look at the volume in that regard. Let's see. I'm gonna pull up some flow here as well. I mean, it's just been here. So the volume yesterday, what, 7 million shares, and then Friday, 6 million moving average. So, I mean, still below average on the stock as for shares. So, but let's look into the option flow. Let's see if we see anything. Let's see if we can identify anything that might, not confirm, but validate maybe some things we see on the chart. As we looked last Thursday, we saw a little bit of premium there, but it kind of fell apart into the close. And then with the open on Friday, I know the stock had shortly gone to around 28 there, close to a high 27.92 on the Friday there. So, and then Monday's net premium as well. So we'll just look at the last couple of days because net put premium had gone down on Thursday. Kind of saw a little bit of that flatline Friday, but then it did increase on Monday. So let's look at it just a couple of days. You can see the decline in net call premium, which is the green line here, decline in price, and the net put premium yesterday on Monday finished up almost $1 million in that regard. So net premium for the day was down, and that was because the net call premium was near $1 million in that regard. So some of that had come off the table, and let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at some of that volume here down below. We'll see what was transpired or what was traded there on Monday. I mean, a lot of people, look long, zoom out on the stock. It's up 61% over the year, still up 1,600% the past 5 years. Not too bad. So, sure, there's some volatility, in some stock where that it just seems to want to trade flat or, trade within a designated range. And it's kind of done that. It did it last year until it didn't. And it's even done it this year until it didn't, stayed in a range, broke out, broke down below, buyer stepped in, buyer stepped out. So we've seen it a few times. But if you look like Monday here, your highest volume contracts, and take a look at that here, was the 30 calls for this week, the 27s for this week, and 28s. Nothing too, where it was heavy one side, heavy the other. It's usually buying and selling on the short dated. These 2650s, which were just closed slightly out of the money, is the stock. Let's see what the stock's trading at the time of filming, because we're still just a couple minutes ahead of the market opening here at the time of film. So 2660. So these 2639. So almost in the money. Let's see here. A little bit of volume yesterday, 4,000, about 270,000 total premium. A little bit of that carried over into new open interest. We saw some activity get alerted on unusual whales as the volume on that particular contract exceeded the open interest. So volume was larger than open interest. So it's going to garner alert there on unusual whales. They were filling around 60, and then another block here towards the close of about 1,000. And that might have been what's carried over into new open interest this morning. So let's see, those were purchased around $64 each, and then these ones earlier in the day around 60. So trader might be looking for a move up in the stock on those as they were short dated and do expire this week. So you never know. You never know what the trader is doing in that regard. Could be buying back something they already sold. It could be a whole different strategy, because if they sold them here at $1.55 each, they might have been buying them back here slowly. So you always got to zoom out. You never know exactly the trader's intention. Sometimes we can kind of hypothesize the best based on the data. So that was something I saw there on the 26 and a halves. And then the 30s, which are out of the money again. Some more selling on those yesterday morning. Traders feel that GameStop may not close above 30 Friday, so they want to sell some covered calls and generate some premium. It's a covered call strategy, generate some income ahead of expiry, because they may feel, well, if a GameStop doesn't close above 30, I'll just keep this premium. Or if GameStop were to close above 30, then maybe they feel that they would, don't have any problems selling their shares. For example, if they receive $10 there for selling one of those, yeah, they may not, they may not care about selling the shares, or they may not, or they may care about selling them. So it just depends on what the trader. But I always try to give you, like the idea of what the trader might be thinking, in terms. It always could be a hedge against their common stock as well. So the volume was pretty light yesterday in that regard here. Let's take a look at some of that volatility. I believe it's coming down just a little bit here. Yeah, implied 30-day and the implied 30-day volatility here In the move, 64. So it's coming down a little bit, the volatility last 30 days. We see 90s and, 80s. So 64 definitely down there for yesterday on Monday. So yeah, as the markets open, and some of my data is going to start to get skewed there. So, but we can take a look at what those some of those hottest contracts were when they came through on Monday here. I want to see where the bulk of that money was spent on Monday. Take a look at that here. And we'll drop a new video tomorrow. We'll get you all updated with the current data, as we near closer to the May and June monthly expiries. So we'll take a look at it here. Highest premium was on the 30s on Monday for the June expiry. Let's take a look at those as well. See about 5,000 volume Monday. About half of that showed up in new open interest, about a mil. So they're selling more of them today. But let's look at the last 2 days as the stocks now. The market's open is 26.30, but might have been winding these down the last few days. OI did increase. Somebody, could feel that it's not going to close above 30 and could also be selling. These have been a very popular call across the chain. But if you look on GameStop, it's kind of been balanced, at least the last month, in regards to buyers and sellers. You got about 41,000 bid volume, about 35,000 asked. So, like I said, it's always been a combination, of buyers and sellers in that regard. And then some of your highest premium on Monday was the 27 calls for this week. More of those 30s again for January. 2650 puts showed up. Let's see, for the the May OPEX yesterday. Yeah, on Monday we saw about 4,900 volume, about 400,000 in premium, and about half of that carried over into new open interest with today's new update this morning. And they're just in the money. So I don't know if somebody yesterday sold some at 90 and then bought them back there at 75 real quick like. So it could be the same trader in that regard. The only reason I say that, if you look at like the candle volume is 1,500 right there. It's like even numbers for a trader. And then 3,100 there. So sold some, bought some back, or bought more. Let's see here the last few days. It's been quiet on the chains. So yeah, that's usually what I think. Sell and back, or sell, buy and back. It happens pretty quickly. Could have rolled to a different contract as well and changed their position completely. Could have been a hedge as the chain's been kind of quiet. So you saw the activity Monday, but as we record this morning, Tuesday, not a lot of premiums transacted in that regard. So the trader more than likely still sitting in that position with some volume this morning coming through. And those puts would be in the money as of the time of filming. So definitely seeing that in that regard. But yeah, I mean, these were just some of the other ones. I only looked really for over 500,000. So not a lot jumped out in that regard. Yeah, so I mean, that's what it was in that regard. It's been kind of quiet. But let's look at it this morning as the market's only been open a few minutes. We'll pull back up the GameStop flow here. And then we'll also take a look at that. I want to just take a look at the chart too. So 26.21 right now on the flow, pretty quiet this morning. But now that the market's open, I can give you the updated on the chart here in real time. So now it's seeing below that 21 day when I just told you what those were. So keep those in mind. And then you've got your 200 and your 50 SMA right down there, 24.96, 24.89. So I'd look for some of these levels. Lower price points here, 25.79, 25.72, 25.68. If those didn't hold, look for 25 and a quarter, and then clearly your longer time frame moving averages. And if you were to use potentially lose those then as support, you'd want to look down here at some of these lower prices. Does anybody know what it's going to do? No. Does anyone have a magic 8 ball? No, but you can use a combination, of the option flow, the chart, the data, the sentiment, the overall strength of the market. But let's compare GameStop to just the S&P. Like, where is the S&P in regard to its 50 and 200-day moving average? Let's look at that. So we look today here. That's what I want to look at. The 50-day is 555 and it's trading at 559. So The 200 at 573, and right above it's 9-day EMA at 554. So when you think, long term, the market, where's SPY at? Sure, we've had all the tariff information. We've had a nice rejection of the 200 SMA, but you're getting a consolidation of some of these shorter and longer moving averages. So you'll just have to take it day by day and see how it goes. But I just wanted to see the relationship of like the S&P to its 50-day moving average as we compared it to, say, GameStop. They got money in the bank. Where do they sit in relationship to their 50-day moving average? And at 26.36, trading well above the 50 and the 200-day, and just shy of its 21-day EMA at 26.46. The stock's 26.36. So, yeah, that's where it's at. You've seen it before. You know the action. So we'll take a look at the flow today, and we'll see what happens as we gear up towards the May and June option expiry. Let's take a look at that here. Take a look at some of that spot gamma like we talked about before, and I've shared the video before. We talked about the spot gamma and gamma last week, so make sure if you haven't seen that video, go back and check that out. Just we talk about how that works, the significance of gamma at the $25 level, like we saw with GameStop. What the significance of that, and just a more explanatory. And I'll just do a little. You can pause here, take a screenshot there for spot gamma exposure. It builds on that video I just showed just a second ago, which is on the page, and I can repost that as well. So like we said, that higher gamma exists, so that as GameStop moved up, more of those calls would become in the money in that regard. So we look over here at the, get my delta pulled up here. There we go. Look at that gamma as well. Gamma exposure by strike, like I said, the highest has been, that 30. You see that call gamma at 28, 29, 26. A little bit of put gamma now starting to build at that 27. We saw that 27 trader trading the $27 puts for May 9th. So we'll take a look at those also. And that delta as well. Still pretty strong, though. It was at the 25 and 20 we saw high up there at 30. You still got that sky building a little bit of that put delta as those 27s essentially are in the money. So let's pull that up here. We're going to actually look up that contract real quick. Those 27 puts for GameStop here real quick. Because I wanted to get that activity, what was happening there. Which makes it a breeze when you got some real-time data here. Yeah, but there's those 27s, and I talked about them last week. Because we saw some activity on them. See some buying maybe here. Buying, selling. And then buying them again. On Friday. That's why I thought buy them at 40 on Friday, and there are about $1 now. So yeah, those have definitely moved a little bit. Because we saw some of that activity on Friday. Because where it started was actually on the 29th of April. Saw about 250,000, 270,000. That carried over into new open interest the next day. And open interest has slowly increased, and then increased again after Friday's activity. So I don't know if the trader's still in there. Because like I said, there's some what appears to be buying also, but also selling in that regard. And these could also be hedges in those regard too, and not necessarily directional. However, for the traders that were buying these at $40, they're at $100. They doubled their money. So not too bad of a trade in that regard. There's multiple ways to trade the stock: up, down, calls, puts, buying calls, selling calls, buying puts, selling puts. So, and as we finish filming 2639, right around those EMAs, I tend to use those. You go back to my old charts, old videos. We tend to just zoom out and go back in time. That's what we do. So if we look at the weekly for GameStop, even this week, it's still 25.91 on the 21 EMA on the weekly. So that's a very long time frame. And then 26.12 on the 9 EMA, 26.15 the 200 SMA. So riding above its 200 SMA on the weekly. Not bad. Not bad. Is it strong? Yeah. Is it weak? I don't know. All comes down to volume, sentiment, option flow, any post, any change, any news. You know how it goes with these stocks. They move up and down, left and right, and A, B, and select start. No, not really, but yeah, that's where we're at, and that's what I got for you. We'll check the flow, but like I said, let me go ahead and repost that about Gamma here. That way you can take a look at it. We'll repost that now. It's fresh on the page. And yeah, if you watch the video all the way through, you're awesome. You value the education and your time, and I value yours as well. Just reply down below GameStop, and I'll know you watched today's video all the way through. You all are awesome, and we'll see you on the next video. The next post, I'll be lurking around the internet, lurking around the option flow, checking out some of my trades. Yeah, we'll check out a couple things. Also, wanted to put something together, I think, tomorrow for those interested in AMC. So if you're interested in that, you could also reply to this post and let me know. But yeah, have a fabulous Tuesday, and I'll talk to you real soon. Have a great day. Oh, where's my mouse? I'm trying to exit my video here. I lost my mouse. You guys have a great day. Thanks for watching.